President Trump dramatically escalated a war of words with the president of Iran this weekend. Just before midnight last night, Trump tweeted to Iranian President Rouhani, "Never, ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious." That's for the President of the United States last night. The tweet came hours after Secretary of State Mike Pompeo delivered a speech slamming the Iranian leadership.
The level of corruption and wealth among Iranian leaders shows that Iran is run by something that resembles the mafia more than a government. The proud Iranian people are not staying silent about their government's many abuses. And the United States, under President Trump, will not stay silent either.
Well, that rhetoric appears to be a response to a warning from President Rouhani of Iran that, quote, "War with Iran is the mother of all wars." For more, I'm joined by David Ignatius, columnist with the Washington Post. You know, I get this terrible sense that the neocons are back in power. Is it John Bolton? This talk, I sense they're pushing regime change again. Well, since when's the United States focused on corruption in other countries? We're looking for a cause for war, it looks to me. Your thoughts?
I think we're pushing very hard. I think the president's tweet was his own personal stamp on an Iran policy that's been developing over months. It's not just since Bolton came in. I think this is a passion for Mike Pompeo. I think we have to understand, Chris, that President Trump thinks that the North Korea summit, the diplomacy with Kim Jong-un, showed that his fire and fury approach, these tweets threatening war, language that we never hear from presidents, works. That's what he's concluded, and I think he's going to try the same playbook now with Iran, with the same risks of conflict.
Iran's a real country. It's not something created by Churchill, you know, the Cairo Conference. It's Persia. And anybody who's ever dealt or met an American Iranian living here, knows how sophisticated that country is. Their military was as almost first world. When they were Israel's ally, they gained tremendously in their abilities to make war. I don't know why we would ever. How do we fight a war with Iran? We're going to go over there and fight there. We're going to invade them. What kind of a war is this going to be?
I don't think Trump wants to fight a war with Iran any more than he wanted to fight a war with North Korea. I think he thinks that bluster and bluff can get them to back down.
What, regime change? We're going to knock off the Ayatollahs with words?
I think we have embarked on a slow motion regime change project, and the result of that is going to be another failed state in the Middle East. If he succeeds, you know, if the sanctions, if the squeeze on Iran's economy succeeds, you'll have a chaotic Iran, you'll have, you know, dissent in the streets, and then you'll have a crackdown, and then you'll have an even more authoritarian leader in a failed Iran.
So I think, as I mentioned, as you mentioned, Trump's rhetoric towards Iran has become increasingly similar to his threats against North Korea's Kim Jong-un last year.
I will say, if Iran threatens us in any way, they will pay a price like few countries have ever paid. North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. He does something in Guam, it will be an event the likes of which nobody's seen before, what will happen in North Korea.
You know, what is this? Which part of his little, you know, erogenous zone, his political base that he's always liked to tickle, what does he get out of threats to Iran? I mean, is it the evangelical base that are very pro-Israeli, who are very hawkish to the Middle East? Do they get titillated by the idea of going to war with Iran? What's he get out of this stuff?
The rhetoric appeals most, I think, to the Saudis and Emiratis and the Israelis, but I think the Gulf Arabs just love the idea of a president who's going to be tough and back up their militants against
Does it help
Iran.
the moderates? We've been hearing about moderates in Iran since Reagan sent the TOW missiles over there in exchange for the hostages. No, this is a game we've been sucked into. Are there moderates in Iran who will be bolstered, made enthusiastic, inspired by presidential attacks on their leadership?
So there is a pragmatic leadership. Rouhani is more moderate than the IRGC, than the Ayatollah Khamenei. The Iranian people, near as I've been able to tell when I visited that country, do not like this regime. And in that sense, the administration's right. This is not a popular regime. There were mass demonstrations across Iran for a brief period.
How do you know it's not just the English-speaking international
Because these demonstrations, Chris, began in the far east of of Iran in Mashhad. They spread essentially to every city in the country. They were calmed down. There's been an eruption again about a month ago in southern Iran, in Khuzestan. So there is a lot of dissent in that country, and people don't like the regime. They don't want to live.
Well, what good is this fire and fury talk from the president?
Well,
is it any good?
So I think it's a mistake. What it will do is put, I think, the leadership on guard. I don't think the Iranians are going to be big risk takers with this president, and we'll see what the Europeans do. The problem is this policy, continued in the direction it's going, will produce a failed state in Iran and the chaos that goes along with that. Is that in our interest? I don't think it is. Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.